Thank you. Wow. Yeah, my life is a million miles away from hospitality. But I'm really excited to share with you a couple of stories and hope that inspires thought and something juicy in there. So yeah, I'm an ocean rower. By the age of 30, I'd broken 5 world records rowing across various oceans. I rowed across the Indian Ocean first in 72 days. We were the youngest team to row an ocean, the fastest team to row across the Indian Ocean. I rowed the Atlantic Ocean from Spain to the Caribbean. We won the race by 5 days. I missed the world record by 1 day, so I came back a year later. We broke the world record in 35 days. I also led a team across the Pacific Ocean. We broke the world record by 10 days, finishing the route from San Francisco to Hawaii in 30 days. So I'm the first person to hold speed records in all 3 of the major oceans. I've also trained 50 or more teams to row across the ocean themselves. A lot of them have broken their own world records and won races. But what is ocean rowing? It's a pretty niche sport, so let's quickly get into that. This is an ocean rowing boat, 9-meter carbon fiber, purpose-built ocean rowing boat. We've got 2 cabins that we can sleep in. Stern cabin here, this is what I classify as the office. This has got all of the electrical equipment, the safety equipment, it's a noisy space to live in. This is normally where the skipper lives. This is luxury in ocean rowing. This is our bow cabin. You've got no electrical equipment, no navigating equipment. It's nice and quiet. We all fight for that dry space to sleep in. Yeah, it's not really luxury. So moving the boat is pretty straightforward. 2 people row whilst 2 people rest. The routine is simple. Row for 2 hours, rest for 2 hours. Your rowing shift we call your on shift. Your rest shift is your off shift. Off shift time spent cooking, cleaning, navigating, stretching, checking the weather, taking care of your body. So on a good day, we may get between 5 and 6 hours sleep over a 24-hour period, broken up. So your rest period isn't really rest. We follow this 2 hours on, 2 hours off routine, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, until we hit our destination. Food is freeze-dried ration packs. For any of you chefs out there that are wanting to look for something new, please move into that space because calories are very important, but flavor is not deemed as important for that. Bathroom needs, they're met with a bucket. Fresh water is generated by a solar-powered desalinator. So we're completely self-sufficient from the moment we leave land until the moment we hit land at the end. It sounds pretty straightforward. Eat, sleep, row, repeat. 2 hours on, 2 hours off for up to 90 days. So why is it such a niche sport? Well, it is simple. It's very, very hard. Oceans are incredibly unpredictable. If you're lucky enough to have like a 15, 20 knot tailwind, you may be able to propel the boat at about 4 knots, which is about this fast, which when you've got 2 people rowing as hard as they can for 4,000 miles, that is very slow. That's going to be accompanied by at least 30-foot waves. These waves can be absolutely terrifying, especially at night. Imagine there's no moon, complete silence. You can't even see your hand in front of your face. You don't really know whether you've got 1 or 2 oars in the water. Huge wave smashes you from the side. Completely lose all sense of direction. You can get ejected out of your seat. The boat can capsize. You can land up in the water with an upside-down boat. Now let's talk about the physical strain that ocean rowing has. People train for at least a year, normally about 2 years, to row across an ocean, dedicating 6 days a week, multiple hours a day, and I suppose in that sense, ocean rowing is pretty similar to hospitality. By the time you reach the start line, you should be in the best shape of your life. But rowing an ocean has a way of breaking down even the toughest and fittest of people. Common side effects include really bad hands. There are days where you're gripping the oars so hard that you have to pry your fingers off the oars. You can feel your ligaments stretching and snapping as you pull them open. Even the most hardened sailors get extreme seasickness, destroyed feet, back, sunstroke. You can expect to lose about 20% of your body mass on a crossing. Those who feel like they can physically take on the challenge, they then have to ask themselves, do they have what it takes to mentally take on the challenge? Even with a team, you're going to feel extremely lonely. At times, the closest human to your boat is going to be in the International Space Station. You'll miss your bed, your home, your family, and the only people you'll interact with are your teammates, and it's probable that you're going to get pissed off with them pretty quickly. And that is why choosing your team is the hardest part. You're going to be living on top of each other in the most grueling conditions for potentially months at a time. So you've got to be in tune with their aches and pain, their exhaustion and loneliness and their anger. Really, you've got to be in tune with the most extreme versions of the worst aspect of their personality. So why would anyone want to do this? I'm not really selling the sport. And why did I want to do it over and over again? Well, I'm a pretty ambitious guy. I wanted to reach the top, as I'm sure many of you do in this room. And between 2015 and 2019, I had all the world records that I needed, more than anyone else who had been in the sport of ocean rowing had ever received. I was giving leadership speeches worldwide on how to win or how to build winning teams. Then within a really short period of time, my life completely spiraled out of control. I became severely depressed. So severely depressed that I actually attempted to take my own life on my 30th birthday. And it's taken me a long time to understand why. But finally, I want to share with you guys the most important lesson that I've learned so far. What you do and the path that you take, whether you're successful or not, only one thing matters. And for me, that's who you surround yourself with at work, your on shift, and who you surround yourself with at home, your off shift. That's the most important part. Choose carefully who's looking after you on your on shift and who's looking after you on your off shift. So let's start with the professional life, your on shift. I think this is an interesting fact. I consider my most successful crossing in my career the one where I didn't break any world records. In 2015, I rowed with 3 best friends in a team called Ocean Reunion. And we won the race by 5 days. We missed the world record by 1 day, but we were 4 best mates from high school. We didn't achieve the goal that we wanted, but we loved every day on the water. In 2016, determined to break that world record, I entered the race again. This time I built a different team, a physically stronger team, a more powerful team. This time we did set the world record, but the sense of satisfaction wasn't nearly as great the second time round. I want to explain why that satisfaction wasn't there by contrasting 2 very different team members from my Atlantic crossing in 2015 and then in 2016. So in 2015, my Ocean Reunion team, there was a guy called Joe. I love Joe to bits. He was awful. Joe got seasick looking at the boat on dry land. He wasn't a rower, he wasn't a sailor, he'd never done an endurance race before. He was fairly good at the very English sport of cricket, and that's pretty much all I'd give him. On paper, you'd never pick Joe to row an ocean with you. In 2016, for my second Atlantic crossing, we recruited a guy called Max. He was an Olympic standard rower. He was the most powerful rower I had ever seen training before. He had just missed out on the Rio Olympics. That made him hungry. And if you had to guess which of these 2 won a world record, you would probably pick Max, and you're 100% right. It was Max that I broke the world record with. But having been on both boats, if I were to build my perfect team again, I would choose Joe over Max every day of the week. That's largely due to how they interacted with their team. And I want to give an example of how Joe and that Ocean Reunion team, how they showed up in the most unexpected ways. And this is actually an unreasonable hospitality story from mid-ocean. So it's day 28 of the Atlantic. We're about 500 nautical miles away from Antigua. Temperatures are starting to get unbearable. I've just finished my 2 hours on shift. I slide into the cabin and it's like a furnace. Those midday shifts in the middle of the ocean are awful. The heat's just sapping all the energy out of you, and then you slide into the cabin and it's a furnace. I set my alarm, I go to sleep. Alarm goes off and it feels like 2 minutes have gone by. It's time for my on shift. I open the cabin door expecting the usual, but instead I'm met by Joe and the team with a surprise. A carefully crafted selection of canapes. Joe and my team, they had remembered that it was my 100th day at sea, having previously spent 72 days crossing the Indian Ocean. Joe had spent his off shift pulling the beef from the lasagna freeze-dried packets. He was mixing that with the beans from the French cassoulet. He then paired that with macaroni, which had been blended perfectly with the chicken tikka. He topped that off with a cocktail made from our rehydration sachets. And that was all presented on our charts, which I think I've got a good picture of here. There we go, that's my... Now, this might not sound appealing when we're on dry land, but in the middle of the Atlantic, where fresh produce is non-existent, this was chef's kiss. So we took 10 minutes off, we celebrated what we had achieved so far, and then we resetted, ready to tackle the next 500 miles. Now, as I say, it doesn't seem like a big deal to spend a couple of hours creating this fine dining experience in the middle of the Atlantic. But every 2 hours off shift is sacred. From the moment you start rowing and you're on shift, you're counting down until you can get back off the oars again. And Joe needed that off shift more than anyone. And he was willing to spend his off shift preparing for that occasion. And to me, that just shows incredible loyalty and commitment to a team. And those are the actions that are invaluable when building a team. Fast forward to the next crossing. Max was exemplary. He was incredible. He gave 100% to every shift. He was always punctual. He had so much power, so much strength. And he was driven by that disappointment of missing out on the Olympics. And that made him tenacious. But he needed to win for himself. Max would never give up one of his off shifts to prepare something for another teammate. He believed that to win, he had to focus on the sole fundamentals of eat, sleep, row, repeat. And that's exactly what we hired him to do. Joe, on the other hand, no matter how bad he was at rowing, he always showed up on time for his shifts. He did give 100%, even if that 100% was only 50% of what Max could produce. But Joe adapted. He wanted to improve for his team. Joe wanted to stand at the finish line proud of his team, while Max wanted to be there to celebrate his own efforts. And this brings me to my crucial point. It's easy to build the best team, but it's much harder to build the right team. The best team might get you the results you want, but at what cost to your business? How often have you recruited someone based on their qualifications and their experience, only to realize that they don't elevate the whole team? Very rarely does the best person lift the entire team, but the right person always does. How much time do we spend recruiting people based on their hard skills? Skills that could be taught, instead of considering the team as a whole and finding someone who can lift the whole team whilst delivering excellence. even if it does take a little bit longer. If I had done the ocean reunion crossing a year later, even though none of my mates wanted to do it again, I believe that we would have won the world record anyway. Building the best team may bring short-term success, but long-term success requires a focus on sustainability. Consider how future hires will support ongoing growth and handle new challenges. Ask yourself, are you part of the best team or the right team? As the best team is going to celebrate your wins, but only the right team will stand by you through your losses. So what led me, after my 4th world record and rowing with both the right team and the best team, to become severely depressed? Well, throughout my life, I've prioritized surrounding myself with people who share values with me, rather than focusing on what their skills are. But after winning the Atlantic race in 2015, my pursuit for the world record shifted my focus to building the strongest team possible. And that caused me to completely overlook the importance of shared values. I don't blame the pursuit of the best team for my depression. But had I chosen teammates who valued honesty and vulnerability, I might have felt more comfortable reaching out for their support. With the Ocean Reunion team, I knew I could show my weaknesses without any judgment. But with the best team, weakness meant exclusion. Victory was all that mattered. So now let's talk about your off shift. These are your friends and your family members. Right in my darkest episode in November 2019, I came to New York and I was speaking at Columbia Business School, ironically, on how to create the most resilient teams. It was here that I met a girl called Elsa. And if you were at Welcome Conference last year, you would have heard Angela Duckworth speak on the importance of guardian angels. Well, Elsa's mine, or she may be if we're with Don Miller, my guide. We met at a time where both of our lives were in huge turmoil, but she was the first person that I could fully open up to. Elsa worked with Will at 11 Madison Park, and that's why I'm standing on this stage today. Elsa urged me to reach out to get professional help. That led me to get therapy, be diagnosed with clinical depression, and previously undiagnosed ADHD. I also realized that I wasn't rowing oceans to win. I was rowing oceans to escape. If it weren't for finally finding the strength to open up to someone, that first someone, I may not be alive today. Taking that first step allowed me to open up to the people in my work life, my on-shift team, my Ocean Reunion boys. And guess what? I was met with deep compassion, empathy, and I realized who my true friends were. All my fears that they would see through me and see me as a failure or think that I was weak, that was all in my head. So as we wrap this up, ask yourself, does your team at work and your team at home have your back? What are you trying to achieve in your professional and personal life? How many people around you would support you if you turned to them and said, I'm struggling? Hopefully not many of you will experience depressive episodes like I've been through, but all of you are going to go through periods of doubt. You'll question your position, your choices, even your career path. But who you surround yourself with during your on shift and your off shift is crucial. And let me ask you this, whose back do you have? Are you the kind of leader who shows enough vulnerability and empathy that your team feel like they can turn to you and ask for help? Do you accept failure from your team? Are you the spouse or the partner or friend who's present enough to notice when your loved ones are struggling? I ask these questions because they're key to building a successful team. And they're so often overlooked. While short-term success is possible by trying to build the best team, long-term success and individual growth is only going to come from building the right team. And if you build the right team, you could become the best team. So how did my life change after my diagnosis and treatment? Well, 2021, I took on another ocean. We broke the world record by 10 days. This time when I arrived, I had a strong desire to pivot my life. I wanted to help others. Being the best in ocean rowing no longer satisfied me or was interesting, so I wanted to help other people, especially men, that were going through what I had experienced. I wanted to show there was a way out, an alternative to suicide. So towards this goal, that was just a vanity project, this one. In 2025, I'm going to be taking on my first solo expedition. Rowing around Great Britain, I'm raising money for a charity called James's Place. They're a charity in the UK who helps suicidal men find a way out. It might sound easier than rowing across an ocean. I can guarantee you it's not. We're going to have strong tides, currents, whirlpools. The last person who tried to row this route took 100 days only to give up halfway. And yes, this is a solo challenge, but I've made sure that my team supporting me is the right team. From my naval architects, boat builders, the PR team, marketing, we're all working together with the same aims, purpose, and reason, ensuring that we're all going to win. And my off-shift team, they're also going to be supporting me, no matter the outcome. So as I stand here today, I want to leave with one final thought. A thought that's shaped by my triumphs on the open seas and my darkest moments on land. We often define success by breaking records, with accolades we earn and the milestones we reach. But the true success, the kind that sustains us through the highs and lows, comes from the people that we choose to journey with, both in our professional lives and our personal lives. And it's not about being the strongest or the fastest. It's about being part of a team that has your back when the waves are calm and when the storms rage. It's about choosing the right people you row alongside, those who will share not just in your victories, but in your failures, who will lift you up when you're down, and who will celebrate you, not for just what you've achieved, but for who you are. And if you build the right team around you, you're going to win. So as I leave here today, I challenge you to look around at your colleagues and your friends and your family and ask yourself, are these the people who will keep you steady when the oceans get rough? And more importantly, are you the person who will do the same for them? Thank you very much.